What's up, guys? I am walking into the Wynn. I am about to go play a 2-5 no limit cash session. Wish me luck. Let's go. Okay, so here we are playing 2-5 no limit cash. We are 150 big blind steep, and get ready for a really gross cooler here. So under the gun raises to $15, under the gun 1 calls, the Lowjack calls, the cutoff calls, and we decide to call on the button here with the suited connector. I like this spot as a call. I love flatting from the button here because we're guaranteed position post flop. We're getting good implied odds to call with the suited connector here. So we give it a call. The big blind calls as well. So we're super multi-way, and we flop the joint. We flop the stone cold nuts here on the 8-7-4 for our straight. Checks to the cutoff, who decides to bet 75 into a pot of 92, and we decide to put in a raise here. Now, the reason I like a raise for this spot is because I don't want to necessarily flat and then, give the other opponents a free chance to hit a spade, or, have them have like Jack 10 and hit a 9 on the turn or something. So I wanted a fast play here. Plus, I think that, some of these players could have sets and 2 pairs that they're willing to stack off on the flop with. And if they have a set, like say they have like red 7s or something, and there's a spade on the turn, then that might get them to shut down a little bit. So I want to bump it up a little bit here. So we go 180, just, not too big. We still want to give the people behind us a chance to do something crazy, like the big blind shoving all in here. So the Lowjack winds up back shoving for 550, and the cutoff, who had bet originally into multiple players on the flop, decided to fold. So we obviously are giving it a call. I'm all in.
Okay.
Call. 3-way all in.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, that's all over there.
First card in the fucking deck. I have a straight. And we lose to 6 9s.
What the fuck?
So the guy called us with the open-ended straight draw on the flop and wound up hitting the nut straight for himself on the turn, which was just so unbelievably gross. This was a $2,000 pot, and we lost with the nuts. So that one stunk. Okay, so here we have 6-5 of clubs in the Lowjack. It folds to us, and we decide to raise it up to 15. I like going 3 times the big blind here when we are 100 big blinds deep. We get a call from the cutoff and the small blind, so we're 3-way to the flop. So ace, ace, 10, rainbow, 1 club, checks to us, and I decide to c-bet here about half pot. I like c-betting here because we can have more aces than our opponents, and it's a relatively dry, it's a very dry texture, so I think that they're going to have missed this a lot. And we do have some backdoor equity with our clubs, so we decide to represent the ace and, continuation bet our backdoor clubs. Plus, we only have 6 high, so we don't have any showdown value. Our hand's not strong enough to check call, so we decide to hopefully try and take it down on the flop. Cutoff folds, but the small blind calls. So when the small blind calls from, pre-flop, I think that they're going to have a lot of like middling pairs. I think he could easily have like 8s, 7s, things like that he's most likely calling a bet on the flop with, and is going to fold to a lot of pressure on the turn if I barrel the turn. As for like his ace-x combos, like he certainly could have some suited ace combos. I don't think he's flatting a hand like ace-3 offsuit from the small blind, but I can see him flatting it. I also think that a lot of his strong ace-x, like ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack suited, those types of hands are going to 3-bet pre-flop. And a lot of his ace-x combos, like ace 3 and ace 4, are going to eat like 3-bet or fold from the small blind. So I don't think he has too many ace-x combos. I could definitely see him having a hand like jack 10 suited, queen 10 suited, things like that, king 10. And like I said, a lot of those like middling pairs. So he gives it a call. We turn some equity now. We have a flush draw, and he checks to us again. So I think that this is a spot where we should definitely be continuing the pressure on the turn. We didn't c-bet the flop to like check a turn that brings us equity. And again, we still only have 6 high, so we're not super comfortable with our hand. So we decide to go 65 here, and he makes the call. Now the deuce of spades on the river, and he checks to us, and we decide to bet 165. We decided to go for the gold. Now, I know this is a risky bet. I mean, we certainly could just, I don't love the idea of checking because then we know we're definitely forfeiting the pot. And I think a bet like this is going to put a lot of pressure on his pairs to fold, and hands like, jack 10, queen jack, or queen 10 suited. Those hands are going to have a hard time folding. They're going to have to make a big hero call. And if he has an ace, he has an ace. He wound up calling, he had an ace. He had ace 5 off. Definitely a hand we didn't think he was going to be flatting from the small blind. Maybe I could have given up. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if you think that I should have just given up the river. But I think I like my follow through. I don't love forfeiting pots, especially because, like I said, a lot of his strong ace-x combos are going to be 3-betting pre-flop, and I don't see him flatting offsuit ace-x combos here from the small blind, but surprise, surprise, he got us. Okay, so this hand was a little bit risque. Hijack opens to 15, and we decide to 3-bet this. I found that a lot of my 3-bets were getting through, so I thought that, and the player in the hijack was opening quite a bit of hands. We're in the cutoff, so we can definitely just throw away this hand, and I do like a 3-bet a little bit better if I was suited here, but I decided to 3-bet, and we got the fold, so we picked up a nice little pot pre-flop without having to go post-flop. Okay, so here we have ace-8 of clubs on the button. The Lowjack comes in for the limp, and we decide to isolate this and raise it up on the button to $20. I like raising this. I don't want to just, limp behind and give the big blind a free chance to see a flop and the small blind a good price to complete. So I isolate the limper, and we get heads up. Flop is ace, queen, 5 rainbow. He checks, and I decide to check back here. I think this is a spot where I don't think I can get 3 streets of value against a limper's range. So I decided to check, be a little sneaky, pot control, and hopefully induce a bet from him on the turn, which we do. He fires 1 big blind, he fires 5 into a pot of 47. So I decide to raise here. Now, the reason for this is because I thought that the king is like a decent card. Like if he has a king, then he likely will call a bet this size. Or if he has like a weaker ace, I think that when people limp pre-flop, they have like some like weak ace combos like ace deuce, ace 3, ace 4. I feel like ace 9 plus probably raises pre-flop themselves. So I think that we could get value from worse aces, maybe some king X combos, especially because we check back the flop. I think he might get a little stubborn with his king X combos, and maybe he would even call us with a queen. There's a flush draw now on the flop, so I definitely don't want to just call the 5 and give his flush draw a good price to get there. So if he has a flush draw, I think that he'd likely call a bet this size too. In hindsight, maybe I could have gone a little bit smaller. Maybe could have gone like 30 or 35 just to ensure that he does call with, his king X combos and his flush draws. So here we have ace 7 of clubs on the button. The under the gun player min raises to $10, and we decide to 3-bet this to 30. I think I could comfortably call the $10 on the button. That would have been fine too, but I was in an aggressive mood this session and decided to 3-bet it. And I also like isolating my opponent here. When he just min raises off of a 150 big blind stack, I don't think it's anything like too strong. I see that a lot of players will, you know, choose a min-raise size off a deep stack with like small pairs and suited connecting hands that I can likely blow them off of post-flop if they didn't connect. So king, king, deuce, 2 diamonds and a club. We have some backdoor equity with our nut flush draw, and we have ace high. So 67 in the pot. I decided to go 25. I like a small bet on this texture because a small bet is going to get the job done. Like if he has something he's going to call us with, then there's no need to risk more chips than we need to. Like I don't need to go $45 here because if he has a pair, he's going to call. If he missed, then he's just going to fold. So I feel like there's no need to risk too many chips in this spot. So we go 25 and we do get the fold. So that's why it's good to, you know, 3-bet some of these like ace, you know, suited ace hands that necessarily aren't that good. Like ace 6 and ace 7 I hate, so I'll likely fold them or 3-bet them. Okay, so here we have pocket 9s in the cutoff. Under the gun 1 raises to 20, under the gun 2 calls, hijack calls, and we decide to give it a call in this spot. So small blind calls and big blind calls as well. Jack 10, 5, 2 diamonds, checks to the under the gun 1 player who is going to continuation bet. He goes pretty small. He goes a third pot, 40 into 120. The under the gun 2 player calls. Now this is a spot where I think a fold is just the best possible option. I see a lot of players make this mistake where they like to call here because they kind of get married to their pair. I don't love calling because we could be drawing super thin with our pair of 9s if the opponents have a jack or a 10. So the point of me showing you this hand is don't get married to like medium pairs just because, you know, if there's like overcards on the board, multi-way. Okay, so here we have king 10 off, under the gun 1. I decided to make a really, really loose open. I was just kind of frustrated with this session and like not winning a lot of hands. So that happens to the best of us. Sometimes we just widen our ranges when we are, you know, down a bunch. And it was a relatively tight table. So I thought, you know, I could just kind of get away with it sometimes. The small blind called, and the small blind I had played with quite a bit with. And I noticed that he was calling super, super wide from the small blind, like literally like garbage hands, like king 3 suited and like ace 7 off. So he was flatting super wide from the small blind. So this is definitely a player specific play. And notice he's only got 36 big blinds, which also tells me that he's more of a recreational player, because anytime I see someone buying in like short, I kind of, you know, label them more on the rec side, because a lot of professionals and people that are, you know, regulars like to buy in for at least 100 big blinds, which is definitely what I recommend you doing. And in poker, it's all about utilizing as many tools in your arsenal as you can. And, you know, the biggest and strongest tool that we have is betting, right? So we always want to kind of try and keep the, you know, put pressure on our opponents, keep the betting lead when we can. And, yeah, that was an interesting tangent I just went on, but that was about stack depth. So always buy in, you know, for as much as you can, but at least make sure you're 100 big blinds deep. So here we have 10 of diamonds, 6 of diamonds, 5 of spades. We have top pair with second nut kicker, and we have a diamond blocker. Now, typically I would continuation bet here, but going back to what I said earlier, that I noticed this player was flatting so wide that I just wanted to give him a chance to catch up and you know, maybe hit some kind of, you know, pair of his or what. And like I said, if we didn't have the diamond blocker, I'd probably be more inclined to c-bet just for protection and to deny his draws equity, because when we don't have a diamond, it's more likely he has diamonds. So, but with the diamond blocker, we're not like really worried about much. So we induce a bet from him on the turn by checking the flop, which I did. So he goes 30 and we decide to give it a call. 8 of clubs on the river. I feel like it's actually a pretty good card, because in the event he had 7-8, you know, now he's hit a pair and he might get stubborn with it. So he bets 75, so pretty big here, 75 into a pot of 105. And we give it a call and he has ace jack. That's why like checking back some of these top pair type hands can be good sometimes. So I was going to keep playing, but I decided to call it a night. I feel like I'm probably a little bit tilted. Probably shouldn't play. If I was playing, I'm only kind of playing to get unstuck, which is never fun. So just gonna call it an early night and move on and try again tomorrow. Gotta love Vegas. Uncork, you did me dirty tonight.